Ready. Welcome, everyone, to this completely unnecessary podcast for Tuesday, September 7th, 2021, alongside Ian Ferguson.
Wow!
I'm Pat Contry. On the show today,
I avoided your ears.
You did. Thank you, Ian. My ears, thank you. We're talking about the WADA co-founder and game seller responding to the critiques of him doing such behavior and weird things. Retro gaming collusion. Is it a thing? We got a Patreon poll. We got some voicemails. First, I wanted to just bring light to the fact that Hurricane Ida has done a lot of damage and displaced a lot of people in Louisiana. I guess some of Texas as well. I personally know someone whose house was destroyed by this, and it was a really damaging hurricane, also moving up all throughout the Mid-Atlantic, up into Pennsylvania, and into New York and New Jersey. There was a tornado that wiped out houses in New Jersey, which I never heard of in my lifetime, something like that happening. It looked like something out of like the Midwest in Tornado Alley. These people's lives obviously been uprooted, and it's going to take a while for stuff to come back to normal and insurance, what have you, rebuilding. You can go to americares.org if you want to donate to help out. And Math Cares right now is matching all donations up to $500,000. So there you go. You basically double your money on your donation here to AmeriCares. And they've done great work before. We've raised money for AmeriCares before. They're a great
sure have.
They're a great organization.
Yeah.
So
if you can help, please do.
What did you do this weekend, Ian?
Oh, I actually had a good weekend. I know people love this question. They hate this question because I never have any answers.
I got criticized for saying, Pat, you don't really care about what Ian did. It's like, that's not the point. It's what you want to hear. If I care about it or not, it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant to the podcast.
You probably don't.
I probably don't.
I cleaned and bagged close to 50 pounds of Hatch Green chilies.
50 pounds of chilies.
Yeah. It's probably how it started. Once you roast them and get a lot of the moisture out and then, bag them down, I probably ended up with like 15 pounds of chilies personally.
Did you
my
try
friend
any?
ended up with another 15 pounds. Yeah, they're good. Are
they great?
They're great. So
very succulent?
Delicious, very deep, rich, roasty flavor.
Yeah.
The hot ones are pretty spicy. Went over to my buddy's house afterwards and we did green chili cheeseburgers.
Oh, that sounds fantastic.
Did green chili cheeseburgers. Those were so good.
That sounds good.
Then yesterday I went to another cookout, spun a little house music, had barbecue chicken, burgers and dogs, flatbread with gorgonzola and figs. That
sounds interesting.
Andre made homemade Pop-Tarts. Warren made a homemade blueberry lemonade that we all threw vodka in.
That sounds delicious.
It was a good weekend. Yeah, very good. And now I'm back to work.
Did you bring your buddy Pat any Hatch chilies?
Because you wouldn't know what to do with them. Someone asked me if I was going to bring you chilies, and this is what's going to happen. I'm going to make you something with the chilies.
Okay. All right.
But if I brought you Hatch chilies,
I wouldn't know what to do with them?
They would sit in the freezer, and you'd ask me every week for 52 weeks, what can I do with these chilies?
Wow, that's very hurtful, Ian.
It's not hurtful. It's what would happen with a fresh ingredient like that, because you don't use them. And you'd be concerned about what to do with them.
How much did you enjoy the chili I made in the fall? You loved that chili that I made.
It's good chili. But I mean, Hatch Green chilies, you could do that. You could just throw that right in there. It'd be delicious. Okay. But I think it'd be easier to make you something because then you'd actually eat it right away.
Oh, thanks, Ian. Ian's going to cook for me. That's a first. I don't think Ian's ever cooked for me before. That's fantastic. Ian's a good cook. I'm actually a decent cook. I'm a decent cook as you pound that.
You've got your moments.
Thanks, Ian.
You're welcome.
That's not even a backhanded compliment. That's like a backhanded, under the chin uppercut comment.
Wow.
Got your moments right there.
Wow.
I grilled with Frank.
Burgers look good.
I don't want to call it. Oh, I sent it to Ian. I'll put it here.
Burgers look good.
I never did that before. I never made my own burgers with chopped meat. Never did that ever in my life. I always did prefab stuff whenever I grilled, on the Foreman grill. But no.
You always bought like prefab patties?
No, but that's not as good. It's not as tasty. It's not fresh. This is fresh meat. And then Ian gave me some advice. Ian's like my my Jedi Master cooker. I asked for advice on stuff. I'm like, hey, what do I do? All right, you do an egg, you do some of this. So I did garlic powder, onion powder, and egg. Worcestershire sauce. There.
That's a big key.
What?
The Worcestershire.
And I didn't have mustard. I didn't have mustard powder. So I went two spritz of just regular yellow mustard, and that's pungent enough. I think it gets in there enough, probably. Yeah. And that was it.
I usually do garlic powder, salt, pepper, but the Worcestershire, you got to have it. Adds just a little something. And then a
little kick?
Yeah. And I can totally understand the onion powder, too. That makes sense.
For people out there, the egg binds it. It helps binds it together. Yeah. Same thing with meatballs. You want to use an egg when you make meatballs. Same
you don't
thing.
need a ton of it. Use 1 egg per 2 pounds. You're fine.
Yeah. And then I made 6 burgers. I made 2 half pounds and 4 quarter pounds for me and Frank. And that was way too much. I can't eat how I used to eat. And I still think I can eat how I used to eat. That's the problem. I used to be able to do 2 burgers, 2 hot dogs, all the sides. No problem. No problem. Boy, did I struggle with the 1 burger and the 1 hot dog. I struggled. And Frank did too. Frank was like, he said, I should have brought a bowl with me. It could have settled my stomach. Could have ate more. Yeah, they were good burgers. I didn't want to pat myself in the back too much. Like, that was a damn good burger I made. Like, that was good. And we had the thick bacon slices next to it. Oh, intermittent fasting.
Nice. Oh my God, that was something else Warren made that I've never had before. Have
I met Warren?
I think you met Warren.
He's been one of those house parties?
Yeah. Warren made deviled eggs.
Oh, yeah.
But he blended a little avocado into the egg yolk mixture and then topped them with peppered bacon.
Okay.
It was the fucking best deviled egg I've ever had.
I'm starving right now because I love deviled eggs, and we need more excuses to make them throughout the year and have them. Besides like it's the summer. I can have a deviled egg every day if you want,
A deviled egg a day.
Yeah, keeps the doctor
away.
There you go.
I would definitely do that.
I'd be on board with that. That's what I did. I exercised a little bit. I've been watching a lot of X-Files reruns. That's why I've been falling asleep too the past month. It used to be Unsolved Mysteries, but the soft Mark Snow music is just like you fall asleep to that music. Sometimes it's too loud, the ambient music. It was when I first watched it. You can't hear some of the dialogue. The mix is bad. But his classic Mark Snow music. That theme was top 10 still. That X-Files theme.
It's great. It's good shit.
So I did that, and I watched one match, and I watched the highlights. Wrestling is pulling me back in. At least AEW, they did their all-out pay-per-view. From what everyone said, it was an outstanding pay-per-view. Some people said it was the best pay-per-view in forever. And they had big reviews. Big news. And you had 3-4 premieres in the same show. AEW said, you know what? We're going to go for broke. We're going to do like Hall and Nash, sort of like WCW sort of thing. And that was like over a couple of months. In one show, they had not just the first CM Punk match in 7.5 years versus Darby, which was an all right match, pretty good. People love Punk. Ruby Riott from WWE came in as Ruby Soho. That was people pop for that. Minoru Suzuki, who is a very dangerous person in real life, from New Japan, and he's beloved, and he's a great wrestler. He came over to face Jon Moxley, and people went nuts for that. People chanted his anime theme song. They knew it. So it's like, this is a smart crowd. They knew it. They knew who he was. And then Adam Cole from NXT, who was like one of the biggest guys in NXT, he came in after the main event when Christian lost to my pal Kenny Omega. He came in and people thought, oh no, who's going to go with it? He went with the Elite. And then to close out the show was great enough. Bryan Danielson, ex-Daniel Bryan, came in and the crowd went nuts. So like this was
Daniel Bryanson. He's an ex-Daniel Bryan.
Well, because I when I met him, I knew his real name when I met him at the restaurant. I called him Daniel. I was like, I don't know what you're supposed to call a person by the wrestler name. Is it too smart to call him by the real name? I didn't know what the procedure was. I never met a wrestler before in real life, so I was like, "Hey, Daniel, it's
you just take off your shirt and run full tilt boogie."
I don't know if I told the story well. I'll tell the story real quick. It was my birthday. I was with my girlfriend at the time. It must have been 5 years ago because I looked at the history. That's when Total Bellas was first airing, and I didn't know they were doing the show. It was an Italian restaurant. They were filming there. The Bella twins were there. Daniel Bryan was there. I did not see Cena there. They were local, not anymore, but they used to live. All 4 of them lived locally at one point. Now only John Cena lives locally in San Diego. It'd be funny if I ran to John Cena randomly like at the flea market. But they were waiting outside, I guess, for them to get set up, and they're outside the restaurant. I saw him. So I went outside, And I was just like, hey, I stayed like 10 feet away. I don't want to like crowd him and be weird. He was with his now wife. And I was like, oh, hey, Daniel, how's it going? He goes, hey, dude, what's up? And I'm like, it's my birthday. Oh, happy birthday. And that was basically it. Then I was like, wait a minute. I know someone that works for WBA. I knew who became the SmackDown head writer. It's like, oh yeah, do you know Steven? I know Steven. I've known him for years. He's a writer. And either Daniel Bryan's like, is this person crazy? Daniel Bryan is like, oh, I don't know. But then Brie was lovely. Either she knew who he was or pretended to get me away. She's like, oh yeah, I know Steven. And that was it. That was an interaction. Very nice. That was it.
Yeah, I know Steven.
Yeah.
Absolutely
I'm sure they did.
Hey, Steve.
He was a writer for 5 years there,
Yeah.
So I'm sure they knew him. I don't know if the writers communicate with the wrestlers day to day or what that works, but they have to go to all the shows now. I know that. And they got to wear suits though, because it's still a fucking carny thing. There's all these codes. The writers got to show up in suits to the television tapings. Why? You're not working a desk job. That was my weekend. Sorry, Ian.
That's all good.
You were talking about Sonic Colors Ultimate.
Yeah, so another year, another Sonic game comes out, and there's problems. Sonic Colors Ultimate.
Wait a second. Oh, wrong one. Sorry. I messed up my soundboard.
Fucking killing me.
I never even used that one. That was
Woo! So, wow, my back. Oof. Yeah, so it was a port of a Wii game. Supposedly one of the better Sonic games that came out during like the dark ages of Sonic games.
The dark ages of Sonic.
And got ported to the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, maybe the PS5 and whatever. I don't know. Probably a PC port. Anyways, the focus is on the Switch
what
port.
Ian?
Anyway.
On a Switch port that apparently has been very bad. A lot of graphical errors, a lot of like flashing colors and stuff like that aren't supposed to be there.
Flashing colors that are not supposed to be there.
Like seizure-inducing flashes that
they
like
put in that weren't originally in the game.
I think they're just like errors that cause like the flashing.
Okay.
So, anyways, yeah, it's not great, and they are. Nintendo, they're offering refunds through the online Nintendo store.
Is Nintendo offering the refunds? They know that this is such a big screw up that they're doing it
that
themselves.
I believe is what the article says.
They're like,
here.
Sega,
yes.
You screwed up. We're trying to be nice to you, Sega, but you're screwing this up for us here.
Yeah,
in Nintendo land.
So yeah, Nintendo is apparently offering refunds for Sonic Colors Ultimate.
You know what the relationship between Nintendo and Sega? I'm trying to have an allegory for what the relationship between Nintendo and Sega is at this point. It's almost like it's your ex-rival that now it's like it's too pathetic to even like, oh yeah, we'll be nice to you and help you out, but this is why you're not a rival anymore. Stuff like this. That's the way I look at it. It's annoying.
So, yeah, someone says that they went to try to get a refund for it, and Nintendo gave them a refund, no problem.
Wow.
Nintendo's probably aware of the issues. We'll see if this gets patched up and fixed. From what I understand, the PlayStation 4 and Xbox Microsoft versions aren't supposed to be nearly as bad. But yeah, that's the word on the street.
That's the Ian's backhanded under uppercut. Not as nearly as bad. Pat has his moments.
You know, everyone's got their moments. Pretty sure you've told me I've had my moments before. I just
not in that way though.
Just don't know in relation to what.
Yeah, I think it was in that context. Japan.
Interesting anti-scalper techniques in place here in Japan. Kind of neat.
All the hell for this. You know what? The more I look at Japan culture, I'm like, this culture makes sense for some of this stuff. This is
some things.
Yeah, not everything.
Some things.
They got every culture has their black eyes. That's why I got to use your eye cream from geology. But some things. So this is what they're doing here. So they are going to open up packages and unseal model kits. Gundam was an example in this article here, and also unseal like boxes of cards, like Pokemon cards. If you're coming in to buy it, we're gonna just take the seal off for you. Have a nice day.
So yeah, it's interesting. I think this is actually kind of a good idea, and it does ensure that the people who are getting it are people who want it and want to use it.
Sure.
Because it takes it out of its collectible state. So for instance, Gundam models, what they'll do is they'll open the package and they'll take out the sprue, which is what all the pieces are attached to, and they'll snip a piece off of it. They're not taking pieces away from it, but they're just breaking apart the sprue. So there is
So it's no longer brand new.
So it's no longer brand new. So it's going to diminish the value for collectors. And then with Pokemon cards, if you've ever, Vonnie and I are both working through booster boxes right now of Evolving Skies. If you've ever bought a box of boosters
bought plenty.
Like 36.
You're not a big Pokemon guy.
Anything.
Yeah.
If you ever bought a box, it comes in a special shrink wrap that has Pokeballs on it, and it covers it, and it's supposed to,
anti-counterfeiting.
It's anti-counterfeiting, but anti-tampering too, so that people can't like take the cards out, weigh them, and then start switching the cards around. You get what's supposed to be in there.
Waiting for the heavier folio.
Supposedly, people say that there's a difference between the pack weight for some of the heavier ones.
So people
get crazy about it.
They open boxes and take out all the packs with the chase cards, and
people do like crazy stuff like that. So what they're doing here is they're taking the seal off because almost no one is going to. Pokemon in particular has been, obviously we've talked about it, it's been nuts.
Target stopped selling them here.
Yeah, during the pandemic, it's just been crazy. They're super popular. But if you take this, so like a booster box untouched of a set that people are looking for could be worth a ton. As soon as you take that seal off of it, there's no guarantee that they haven't tampered with it. So reselling it is going to be a nightmare. So I actually like this. I think this is pretty interesting.
No, it's great.
I think it's a neat idea and an interesting way to combat scalping.
Combat. No, this is fantastic. And I don't know if scalping's a big deal in Japan. I'm guessing it is in some extent if they do this. But it's almost like they really think about the whole experience there. It's like we're looking out for everyone. Here, it's almost like an afterthought for companies to try to do stuff like this, if that makes sense. There, it's like, this is forward thinking. This is progressive. I like this approach.
And what's neat about it is it's not ruining it for anyone who wants to use it.
No.
It's not like they're ripping the box or marking it to make it less desirable. If you are buying a Gundam model kit to build it, you're going to be cutting the sprues.
Yeah.
If you're buying Pokemon cards to open them, you're taking the shrink wrap off. It's literally not doing any damage to the item as intended for a person using it.
It's not affecting anyone but potential
fucking
scalpers.
Brilliant. Yeah, genius stuff.
There you go. And they got that. They got some good stuff going on there too in terms of they got some good video games in Japan that come out.
They sure do. You got nothing. The way that last topic ended, you've got nothing.
Okay, I don't know what you're talking about. China's going to ban online gaming though, apparently.
Oh, well, it says that Ultimate Nintendo is next, and I was like, you've got no transition.
I don't know what you're talking about. We're talking about China banning online gaming. What are you talking about? So China is implementing bans on online video gaming during the week. This comes out of CNN Business from Beijing, Hong Kong as well. I guess it's the same. Hong Kong/Beijing, because now they control Hong Kong.
Beijing.
Yeah, Beijing.
Jing. During the Olympics, it was totally proven that the Jing thing is just something white people do to make it sound more foreign. It's Beijing.
That's just how I pronounce it. What do you mean? I'm not trying to make it sound foreign.
Beijing. I'm saying the pronunciation.
Beijing?
Yeah, I just remember that being everywhere during the Beijing Olympics. Was that it's not Beijing, it's Beijing.
It's just easier to say Beijing versus Beijing. It's Beijing.
Beijing.
That sounds more foreign to me. Anyway. Whatever. Okay, we're getting into that. China has barred online gamers under the age of 18 from playing on weekdays and limited their play to just 3 hours most weekends, marking a significant escalation of restrictions on the country's massive gaming industry. That's going to cut it off entirely.
Yeah.
At that point, are you kidding me? You only play 3 hours a week?
That reminds me of like parents, as like kids being like, you can play video games for half an hour. Completely not understanding video games.
Absolutely.
Like modern video games, especially story-based video games, you can't do anything in half an hour. Maybe an hour, maybe an hour and a half. 3 hours on the weekend is nothing.
It's something, but it's nothing.
Especially, I think the thing is with how busy some of these schedules for kids can be, they may not even necessarily get to do the 3 hours on the weekend. They may not be able to use it all. But when you think about like a modern RPG, a 50-hour game, if they can only play on the weekends, that's taking forever. That does essentially kill the modern momentum associated with playing video games.
Yeah, and obviously if it's for, adults can do what they want, but if you wipe this out for children, that's a huge amount of revenue and all the free-to-play stuff and, Fortnite and everything else. And then How's that affect them when they grow up? Maybe are you trying to wean your society and culture off of video games over time? That's what it sounds like. Really, what you're trying to do.
Yeah, it sounds like a productivity thing.
It's like we don't want adults in the future to play this shit, so let's start with the children.
Yeah.
Woo, authoritarianism. Woo!
Yeah, not real big on that.
Woo!
Not real big on that. I mean,
wow. Let's yikes. I'm not saying kids should be playing games, 3 hours every day if you know what I mean, like if they don't have time to do it, but holy shit.
We've had more nuanced conversations about this in the past. Yeah, I definitely don't think kids should be playing video games all the time, but it also depends on situations, what they're getting done, what they're accomplishing.
Yeah.
In this current time, it's a way for kids to socialize. Socialization is important. That's cutting out huge ways of socialization.
It's
not good.
This is government preaching culture and also tech at the same time, and they're going to have the means, I guess, to know who's playing these games and the ages. And this is scary stuff. This is Orwellian stuff right here. And this goes off the limit set in 2019, which I think we talked about at the time.
We did.
When they restricted this 90 minutes on weekdays, which is reasonable.
I mean, I don't think the restrictions should be there, but I felt like their original restrictions.
Yeah.
If a parent were to decide to enact those restrictions on a kid on a case-by-case scenario,
sure,
I would say that those restrictions are not overly heavy-handed.
Yeah, I didn't play more than 90 minutes on a weekday during school. There was no time.
Right. An hour and a half is totally reasonable, and 3 hours on weekends...
that's a little weird, but
it's a little weird. But like I said, if a parent had chosen to individually enact these rules on a child, I would not think that the parent was being all that draconian.
This is from the National Press and Publication Administration, NPPA. They said it's beginning of a new semester, putting specific requirements for preventing the addiction to online games and protecting the healthy growth of minors. And then there was where was the article that likened it to opium? Where is that? Is that in here?
Yeah, you mentioned something about that
it's
last
just like,
night.
really? You're literally...
Social opium, they called it.
Yes. So if you don't know your history, one of the reasons why Hong Kong was controlled by the British, there was a big war between China and Great Britain in the early 1900s because China was trying to stamp out the opium being imported there. It was a big deal. So to bring up a term like that, spiritual opium and an electronic drug, they're really trying to say like this is a culture war against outsiders.
You're choosing those words very specifically to invoke a feeling.
This is like a war from outsiders. That's basically what you're saying. That's what you're saying. And obviously the newspapers are government fucking newspapers in China. So that's what you're saying here. Yeah, I don't know where you go from there. I mean, man, if I'm a kid there, holy wow.
Yeah.
Your world's trying to turn upside down. Mm-hmm. And that's basically what's happening.
Start learning how
3 hours a week of gaming, kids. 3 hours.
I guess.
Hit the clock.
Start learning how to get past, like, get some emulators and some ROMs and just play your games in private.
Yeah, go on AliExpress and get the stuff that's probably made in China. You get the handhelds and play some stuff. I can picture a lot of parents being like, "This is ridiculous." And here's a Nintendo,
right?
Hook it up or whatever the equivalent was in China. I don't know if they have the NES there.
Absolutely perfect time to go through all those Super Nintendo RPGs everyone talks about.
Yeah, there you go. Get that Super Nintendo Classic hooked up there. That's a shame. That's a shame. It's not a shame, though, Ian, if you visit ultimatenintendo.com, because there's plenty of there to keep you occupied, even if you're not playing video games. You have books.
I can't believe you did that.
Yes! You have books you can read, pins to wear.
He jumped topics just so he could have it.
I don't know what you're talking about. That was natural. That was right there in the list. RBI baseball stickers. You have volume 4 and 5 of Video Game Years DVDs for sale, Ian. Your face is red now. It seems like you need some geology to help with that, right?
That's another thing I did over the weekend, though. I got a sunburn. yesterday. I'm a little red.
You weren't wearing your geology day cream with the SPF.
I was, but apparently it was not strong enough. Yeah.
Ian, come on.
I sweated.
You're whiter than white.
I'm a sweater.
You have to go SPF. I'm spicy white. I got a little bit of protection at least. You're plain white.
I know. Chris always tells me he's got the white person sunscreen for me.
There you go. Like 50?
It's 50, and I didn't use it.
I mean, I use minimum 30 myself because I'm horrified of getting sunburnt. Like I've had a couple bad experiences as a kid. That's not happening again. So I use 30. So anyway, so that's ultimatenintendo.com. I'm also on Twitch every Wednesday, watching 80s and now 90s commercials. I sprinkle in the 90s there. I remind myself how much I hate the 90s compared to the 80s, watching the commercials. That's at twitch.tv/country code. Ian will show up once every blue moon I was going to say blue moon literally, and it might actually not be that because there's like at least like a blue moon every year. Probably there's like one a year, about one every 16 months, and that's not how often Ian comes in. So maybe it is once in a blue moon that Ian shows up to there.
Yeah, maybe.
$200 million video games, Ian. That's what the Sony boss predicts PS5 games will cost. Not a big article here from Eurogamer, but this comes from, yes, I'll accept all cookies. I love cookies. This is an article from Wesley Yinpool, and it talks to Sean Layden, who used to be an exec at PlayStation. He left a couple of years ago. He told Bloomberg about the cost of game dev doubling with every platform. So PS4 games are $100 million, and now PS5 games will cost $200 million to make, and prices will only increase from there, according to him. Well, at some point, you got to realize it gets insane, and why are we keep doubling the cost? And obviously, games keep getting bigger and bigger, and they're more experienced games versus standalone games, and I get that, but at some point, you got to say, like, all right, can we go back to smaller games? And this is the same thing with movies. It's like, can we make a medium-sized movie? Now they're either huge movies or extremely tiny movies. There's no middle class anymore, and it seems like it's happening with video games as well.
I've never been this unexcited about a generation of gaming, and I actually hate to say that. Like, that brings me no joy. I love video games. I play modern video games. We don't talk about them much on here, but there is nothing about this current generation that I feel like everyone feels like they should be excited, but what are we actually excited about? Stuff isn't out yet. No one can get the systems. Maybe in 2-3 years, there's going to be an interesting pipeline, but I'm not even seeing anything that like looks like it's coming out within the next year that I feel like I need to run and get. And with the prices of games going up, we're going to see less and less games hit the shelf, at least less and less games of a AAA variety, which means we're probably going to get less variety in games. And I'm kind of, I wish I wasn't. I wish I was excited. I wish someone could explain to me why I should be, but this is where we're going to get, because as the prices go up, you're only going to get sure things.
Yeah, that's why people are complaining about it. You know, we go to the movies now, they're 90% genre movies. There's no like smaller dramas anymore or period pieces. It's all big Fast and Furious movies. It's all MCU movies. It's all like, what about the other people? Like, what's the stuff they like? That's gone. Like what was it, like Fox, like Searchlight, like the independent, like smaller stuff wiped out. They don't do like those smaller stuff anymore. Still, I mean, it still requires a budget, but they're not $200 million budget. It's like $20 million budget. You know, like for games that can't exist. Is it got to be super tiny or super huge? There's nothing in between anymore.
I guess I can't say I'm not excited about modern games because I'm excited about a lot of like smaller stuff. But as far, I feel like AAA games have left me far behind, and I don't know what it would take to get me back into them. I have no idea.
We go AA?
I have no idea what the last AAA game I played was. Like, trying to think about it, I really have no idea. It would have been something on the PS4, I guess. Maybe it depends if you consider. But even the most recent Nintendo title I played that was like a major release was just a re-release. It was Super Mario 3D World. So, yeah, I don't know. I wish I could get more into it, but that doesn't appeal to me anymore.
All right. You want to talk about this Polymega review from Polygon? Double Poly? Did I skip something? I did. I'll talk about this.
We can skip the other thing.
Can I skip the other thing?
Yeah, because it's not out. I mean, whatever.
Polymega. So I guess Polygon got one. Who you better send one to Polymega. So this is an article from Christopher Grant. So it's 4 years after being unveiled as a Retroblox, 4.5 years. Being renamed just a few months later, shifting from FPGA technology to software emulation a year later, then opening for pre-orders a year after that. The all-in-one retro gaming console, Polymega, is finally shipping out on September 12th. That's the lead. That's the history of it right there, with lots of twists and turns there. So in short, the review says what we know about it. It's an not FPGA, emulation-based modular console. The base units are your CD games, Sega CD, Turbo CD, Neo Geo CD, PlayStation, and Saturn, which is what most people are excited about because Saturn emulation has been not the best in the past, and it sounds like they did a little branch path of this emulator, especially for this for the Saturn. Custom BIOS file, so playing Saturn games is as simple as popping in your pristine copy of Panzer Dragoon Saga. Yeah, so we're gonna see a lot of people get this month, and I think unfortunately with the Poly Mega, it comes back to what I said about this is years too late, and the ship has pretty much sailed on this. And you're gonna have some people that might be excited to get this just to get. Oh, like I always said, I want a disc emulation system. Sure, I want my the disc version of a Retron 5. Absolutely, the market needs one. But then you hear it's $400 now, and then all of a sudden you see a lot of people just be like, at that point, not $200, not even $300, $400, and so it's. I feel bad for the people that are still at the company that put their heart and souls in this for 5 years.
The front end looks pretty nice from what we've heard. The user experience is fairly seamless. I hope these things are built well. If you put down money for this and you get one, I hope it lives up to your expectations. I don't think at the end of the day, and we've said some pretty stern things about the Poly Mega. My bigger concern was that people got their systems. My second concern is the price. It's a neat item, but like Pat says,
Who's Pat?
It's shot past its window of, I think, truly wowing people, especially at $400, not including any of the other cartridge
and not being FPGA
add-ons and not being FPGA. It's going to make some people happy, and if you got one, like I said, I hope that's you. Had it come out earlier at $100 less, even $100 less. If those modules, and I'm not saying that they should be cheaper just to be cheaper. I mean, business is what it is. Had those modules been closer to 50 instead of 80,
supposed to be originally 60, I think. Yeah,
we'd be talking about this differently. But it's just, it's not that it was a horrible idea, but technology passed it by. The need for it has passed by.
If this came out 5 years ago, this would have been the biggest thing.
Yep.
If this came out even 3 years ago, 2018, it would have been a fairly big deal. Then each year, more items come out, more FPH consoles, more Terra Onion products, and now I'm leaving stuff out, but you have all these other things out that people are satisfied. They're good. I'm good. I got this. I got my Terra Onion for my Sega Saturn. I'm good. Or I
feel like if you have the physical media, you're probably going to want to go FPGA, and if you don't have the physical media, well, this isn't going to do it for you anyways because you need it. But at that point, the Mister exists.
Yeah,
in the same, if not actually cheaper price.
It's range. In a void.
Yeah,
the item's now in a void, especially at that cost. Because now at that cost, I can get the Analog Duo when it comes out, and I can get the Analog Pocket. So it's like I can get that and be good, and some money left over for stuff. So that's the thing. It's like, anyway, that's fun.
Yeah,
I returned to the flea market, Ian. I hadn't been there in 5-6 months. Frank said I'd put it off for the last few weeks because my heel was bothering me, and my heel's feeling better. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna go. I got up 7:20. I got there before 8. I don't get 6:30 anymore.
Oh shit! Sorry.
You okay, Ian?
Yeah, something just went.
Want me to get my Cairo gun?
No, I'm
work
good.
on you here doing the podcast. Mario can work on there with his big hands.
Mario can
those
keep
big mitts.
Mario can keep his big fucking paws to himself.
So I went.
Pest.
What?
Sex pest.
Wow, that's some allegations against Mario right there. He just likes to hug. That's what the arms are for. So I went to the swap meet. It was like vintage clothing and sneaker day, so there was extra sellers there. So a lot of younger people than I would have not normally seen, and vendors. But it was full. Obviously, there was like 2 rows with them, but it was a full seller swap meet. I didn't see that in years. Going back to that back row there, and so I got there before 8. Which is, that wasn't always too late. At some point in time, that wasn't too late. And you can still find stuff, people are putting stuff out later. But man, it was, slim pickings. My God. You cannot find not just any deals. There's just no variety of stuff, at least that we're interested at here. Like we're talking about toys and video game stuff. It was disappointing. I spent $20, so unofficial swap meet. I did see an NES. No, a corroded on the back. Like if you got a Q-tip in there, it was almost like it was exposed to too much salty air. But an NES, it was still here. I was surprised. This is the one thing I found was a deal. An NES, one controller, $15. That's not bad. With no hookups, that's not bad.
No, that's pretty good.
If it works, there was no games with it though. So I don't need that. For years ago, I would have bought that. I don't need that.
Yeah, definitely not.
But I did find was funny. It was across from. This is what I'm getting into. This is what the swap meet was in a second. Across from the people that have the storage units or buy old stock of all the CDs and DVDs and movies, and there's some games thrown in, and we're talking to people. The person has thousands of stuff laid out. People are hunting through all of them. You have the people with their little readers to scan to see what they're going for on Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
Those people were out in force more than I've ever seen before doing this
Really?
stuff. Yes.
Really?
Lots of those people. There was like 2 or 3 vendors that had a bunch of stuff. But across from them, I saw a couple of 360 games, and Pat never looks for 360 games. And underneath one was DuckTales Remastered, your favorite game. So I got a DuckTales Remastered for only $5. That's a good deal because those are out of print, right?
I hates it.
You thought it was all right.
No, I did not think it was all right. It was not all right.
Kids are not all right, Ian. So I got that. And then what else? There was another vendor, Wario. Wow, I feel bad for Wario. He is not.
Oh,
he's seen better days.
Has Wario fallen on hard times?
Because his stock relies upon the other vendors that he picks through at 6 a.m.
Right.
They're not coming anymore with their cheap prices, right? They're basically there's less and less people using it as a yard sale. If less people use it as a yard sale, he can't get his supply. I can't get my stuff, but then he can't get his supply to upcharge it. So, I mean, we're talking like shrinkage in terms of games there. But there's a younger seller that has a bunch of other games that are much more of variety, but they were the eBay prices. This guy's probably about 35, 40. And I think I did a tweet thread. I don't know if you saw it Sunday.
No.
Flea market, because he mutes me. I did a whole tweet thread of stuff I found there.
I was cleaning Peps on Sunday.
And then I came across this guy had a lot of games. He had counterfeit Game Boy Color games and Game Boy Advance games. Like there was a counterfeit Shantae right there, sealed. I was like, this is all counterfeit stuff. Without even looking at see how bad the blurriness is, I'm like, and this is a seller that I pointed out before. He had counterfeit games and seemed to care. Doesn't care anymore. I guess a year later doesn't care. So that was disappointing. There was a bowl of a mix of loose Sega Master System games. Some hard to find, and
a punch bowl.
Yes, well, it was a woven bowl, and Jaguar games. So like Kasumi Ninja next to like Zillion next to the Uncommon King's Quest Master System game, but they all didn't have boxes, and they all were eBay prices. It's like no one's gonna buy these games. No one's gonna say, I'm a Sega Master System collector. I'm gonna go to the swap meet to find the games that are the same price. I get them online. It's like no one's doing that.
Yeah, there's this little robot chihuahua in a box.
Oh, yeah, see, and so I got that. I got it. There was a vendor with toys from like a storage unit that 90s toys up the wazoo. I'm talking like all the X-Men toys, Ian, X-Force, like the Fantastic Four figures from the mid 90s and all those shows, the anime shows are on. A couple of Dick Tracy figures there, not any ones that are worth any money. No G.I. Joes. I did get a Bendham Roger Rabbit figure that was still on the card for please $5 only. I can't do the please. It was $7 or $7 or 4 for 20. I couldn't find more than one. Listen, can I get the one? Okay, $5. But like people were picking through that, and probably toy resellers were picking through that because I guess those Spawn figures sell somewhere, and those next generation figures, I mean, they're worthless. But someone bought a bunch of those things.
Spawn and
remember the Spawn figures, how hot they were in the 90s?
Nah, I don't really.
You don't remember how hot those were? They were the people go to Toys R Us and get them early in the morning. Anyway, so it was interesting to see vendors like that. There were card vendors in terms of sports cards there, new sports cards. I was talking to one, and he was
that's like a big thing now.
I know it's a big thing, but it's like I don't see how people don't see parallels to the card bubble of the 90s. I just don't see it. It's like, dude, this just happened 20 years ago. You know, like 25 years, like what? And he was telling me that there's this company now, I don't know if it's called Premier, that the card packs cost so much money. It's artificial scarcity. It's like, yeah, a box of cards is like $1,000 or something or more. I'm like, for new cards. He's like, yes. He's like, it's like, I don't know if he told me the price, but I'm doing the math in my head, $40, $50 a pack of cards. Like something
I've heard
like
of
that.
I've heard of that shit. Yeah.
Like what? Like this? These are like high price scratch offs now at this point.
Yeah.
Because it's no longer a buck for a pack of cards or $2.
Because it's all about getting the hit, and then if it's a hit you want, you keep it, and if it's a hit you don't want, you trade it away or you sell it and you make money back. So yes, there is. It's kind of similar to how like I don't know if it's how it's done now, but how pachinko at least was done at one point in time, where you don't win actual money. You win like you win credits that you can buy things with, and then you can sell the like a prize counter at like an arcade, sure. And then but the idea is that you always resell those things.
But how does the economy work on that for the cards if the packs are that expensive? At some point, it's like playing the slots. There's going to be some winners, but most people lose long term. It just has to be like that, right? So like, how does the math work out? For that, because at that point you're not collecting a full card set if it's costing you $50 a pack. You're going for the chase cards. You're not going for like the 600 Major League Baseball player. You know what I mean? You're not doing that.
The other cards are in there as because
you
they
throw
have
them
to
out.
be.
Yeah. Because otherwise you can't just say, well, this is basically gambling. Like it's straight up. Obviously before, yes, you always look for chase cards. There weren't chase cards for the 90s. What am I talking about? In the 80s there weren't chase cards. There weren't. There were just cards. And you went for the rookies.
There were some special ones, but not until the 90s.
Not until the 90s.
Yeah.
Like mid-90s when they got bigger.
Yeah, usually you wanted the rookies and stuff like that.
You wanted the rookies. They did like the little half sets of like the trade and rookies, but those still weren't chase cards though. You bought the whole set of those.
Right.
So, yeah, bizarre, Ian. I spent like $20, $15. Swap meet.
$20 was what you said. Yeah.
$20.
Under 25.
Under $50. $50. And when I left, it was mobbed too. It was mobbed.
Really?
You see that one person complain I was wearing a mask in that.
I did not see them complain about it.
They said I was virtue signaling because I showed a picture of myself. And I saw I wore a mask. I'm sorry I wore a mask. I'm sorry.
Yes, and you're virtue signaling by saying you're virtue signaling. You're signaling your virtue. It's dumb. It's dumb. People are dumb.
Because I want. Here's the thing. I enjoy wearing masks. Yes, I enjoy doing it. No one enjoys wearing masks. That's the only thing. Some people think we do it. No, no one wants to actively wear masks for the rest of our lives. It's ridiculous. Not so people go at me in the fucking comments. Go at me, you fucking anti-science folks. All right, is that it for this intro?
That is, and I'm gonna go grab my Diet Coke.
What?
Yep, that's it for this intro.
That's it for the podcast. We're done. We'll see you later.
Peace.
If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. I'll explain why I personally switched over. It's free. There's no monthly fees you have to worry about. There's also creation tools if you're starting out that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. So you don't need an expensive or complex setup to worry about there. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more podcast platforms. Listeners can also leave voice messages that you can listen to. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership required. It's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. Download the free Anchor app right now or go to anchor.fm to get started. All right, Ian, there's been a lot of talk and hullabaloo the past few weeks regarding the controversial WADA Games Grading Company in association with Heritage Auctions and alleged market manipulation and behind-the-scenes potential string pulling in order to inflate the graded game market the past 2.5 years that we've been covering, and Carl Jobst did his video on, and there might be a follow-up. Rumor has it that, he said it, there's going to be a follow-up with it. So in the midst of all this, we talked about things we've seen and heard, and I said I saw this guy named Mark Haspel at a convention acquiring these games at 2.5 years ago, and Seth Abramson did a report that he had purchased a few games from this person without realizing it on eBay.
Yeah, so basically Mark Haspel was
co-founder of
WADA, said that basically the rule at WADA was that you cannot sell games if you are part of WADA.
If you're an employee, that was the direct quote from Dennis Kahn.
And I think that's where people are trying to find loopholes in this situation.
Sure. Oh, they're going to continue with that. So Mark Haspel, in light of Seth Abramson's coverage and maybe us reporting about it as well, he came out with a quote here. Get this on the tweet here, and we're going to run through this quote here. He was on a Facebook group, on the WADA Games group unofficial. Certification has transformed vintage video game collecting considerably in the last 3.5 years. Discussions, first of all, I'll say it's changed graded game collecting. Discussions regarding video game certification, its purpose, and future are to be expected. Transparent dialogue is necessary and healthy for all participants in the video game collecting space. Yeah, great. It should be coming from your side, Mark. The dialogue from WADA. As part of this public discourse, some concerns have been raised regarding my involvement with WADA and the video game hobby. I'd like to take this opportunity to clarify my role as it relates to WADA. I was never an employee of WADA. There you go. He can get away with saying they never. Right. I was never employed by them. Yeah, you're a co-owner of WADA. I've never been a board member or officer of WADA, which is funny. When you go to the website, you see him as part of the executive team. Again, trying to splice hairs. You're on the executive team. You're an executive, but you're not a board member, but you're invested in the company and you're a co-owner and you're a founder. You're trying to like splice hairs here, but you're still involved with the company.
I want to point something out. I want to say something about that though, and it not really being a loophole. I remember, I think it was 2 years ago, I saw Dennis at one of the conventions. Okay. I said hi to Dennis, and he said, "I want to show you something over here." And I said, "Okay." He wanted to show me the case they were using for the Game Boy games.
Sure.
And I said something offhand about popularity, and he said something about, I said like the price is going up, and he said something along the lines of, "Yeah, I mean, I wish I could, sell some of these." And I said offhandedly, I said, you can't, because I just wasn't thinking. It was a convention. It was busy. We were walking around, and he looks at me and he goes, "No, of course I can't." He's like, "That would be, bad." And so if he couldn't, what I'm getting at is if he said he couldn't do it, that would obviously extend to other people in the upper. Yes, it wasn't just for employees. It was for everyone. His statement was for everyone involved.
To you personally.
Yeah, that's what he said to me personally. And that, so
because he understood as a founder of the company and owner of the company,
that you can't
an executive, that you cannot do insider trading. So to speak.
So Dennis was aware of that, and I mean, made that very clear to me, that day. And like I said, that's an obvious thing. That's not something that should be explained to anyone. But like I said, it was busy, and I wasn't thinking. So he was like, "Yeah, I can't do that." So that does mean, obviously, anyone else.
Let me get on this next statement. This is what fucking annoys me. I was a passive investor in WADA. Like other passive investors in the company, probably referring to like Jeff Meyer, who was also getting in trouble for selling stuff from the Carolina collection, because he was an investor in the company. I never had any oversight role or made any management decisions for WADA. I've never been involved in the day-to-day operations at WADA. The appearance of impropriety is oftentimes enough to be improper. That's the point of this stuff.
Right.
And that's why Mark and others are now getting this backlash. They didn't think either people would care or they get caught, or a combination. The fact of the matter is you are listed on government documents as a co-founder of this company. A co-founder. You're a founder. You're an investor. You're not passive. First off, you're not passive if you are in the role you're on. You're as part of the executive team. You're on the website. You go to the conventions. I've seen you there to represent the company. You're not passive. Passive investor means, Ian, this is a passive investor. Ian, I'm going to give you $10,000 to make a fucking do a hot dog stand. That I have no input at all. I don't say anything to you about it. It's like being a stockholder in a company, like a public stock, where, all right, Ian, here's some money. Give me my returns. That's a passive investor. The moment you are helping the company in any way, shape, or form, you're an active investor at that point. If you're going out and we're going to get to trying to promote the product, you are not passive anymore. That is a bullshit statement from Mark Haspel. I was listed in the WADA SEC filings as was required because of my investment in the company. Yes, you're a co-owner when you're an investor. I no longer have any equity in the company because of the sale to Collectors Universe in July 2021. That's irrelevant. This behavior has been happening way before that. It's irrelevant. It's happening for years.
Yeah, I would point that out. The irrelevance is kind of
it's irrelevant. And Jim Halpern said the same shit.
That's hand-waving.
That's hand-waving. Yeah, it's irrelevant. I'm featured on WADA's website to help market video game certification to collectors, investors, and dealers and other collecting fields. Doesn't sound passive to me. Does that sound passive?
It sounds like marketing.
That sounds like you're being active in promoting and helping the company. I attended various conventions with WADA to help cross-promote video game collecting to collectors from other collectible spaces. Yes, that's the first thing I've seen. That, yeah, I always said you're getting people from like comic books into this. Right? Yes. He came from comic books. He came from CGC. Like, this is where the people came from. This guy wasn't a video game collector. He was a comic book guy. I provided feedback to WADA when it designed its original holder and label. Yeah, very passive. I also provided my opinion to WADA before its launch on how components of complete in boxes would be categorized and dealt with. Yeah, again, passive. You're helping form the company from the ground up.
Yeah.
It's not passive.
It's not passive.
It's ridiculous. I briefly visited the WADA offices 2 times. This guy is in videos saying he's a co-founder.
Yeah.
He's been in videos sitting next to Dennis talking about video game collecting. 2 co-founders sitting next to each other. And you're telling me you're a passive investor? Are you out of your mind? That's passive? So, obviously, I'm not pleased by this. I'm not pleased by this behavior. And there's more here as well. But I think that's all I really need to talk about here. He's also trying to say, like, oh, my return address was on every package. I didn't make it a secret, blah, blah, blah. He said he never submitted games to WADA any different from anyone else. He never requested or received information from WADA. Here's the thing, though. How do I know you didn't get that information still? I gotta now trust you? The whole point is I shouldn't be asking these questions at all about someone who's a co-founder. If Dennis realized and told Ian that I can't be selling this stuff, why are you exempt from that? Why are you a special case? And when you say, like, I never requested or received some information from WADA, I don't believe you. I have no reason to believe you. I have none. Because you should have been doing this to begin with.
All I really have to add is something I've said to you. I think when this sort of stuff happens, people get excited and they want to see their name attached to big new projects. So they find ways to attach their names to these big new projects. And then they don't want the responsibility that goes with it. So they find ways to hand wave it when it becomes inconvenient. Well, if you are going to be listed as a co-founder of something, then you need to abide by those rules. You can't just hand wave that away later and say, oh, I didn't really do any co-founder stuff. Even if you didn't, you went out of your way to have yourself attached to the project as a co-founder. That comes with responsibilities.
You invested money in the company. You are a co-founder. You are as important to the company as anyone else. You are more vital to the company than someone they hire, as an employee. Because without you, the company wouldn't exist, technically. And now you're trying to tell me that you are passive and you had nothing to do with it because you got caught. You got caught, but the fact of the matter is, if me and Ian yelled about this a year ago about this, it might not have gotten any traction. It's because the video got 1 million views, and now a lot more people are onto this. Is now you feel need to make this statement. That's it. That's what it comes down to. And if you didn't get caught, you probably would have been still doing this, and you wouldn't have never put out a statement. That's the thing. It took a YouTube video with 1 million people watching it, and a journalist with 1 million Twitter followers. Doing reporting on this stuff for this to get to the point it's at. And when I see people try to make light of it, first of all, the most people making light of this are people that are invested in this. They are the graded collectors. And even some of them even say, oh, this is bad. They shouldn't be doing this. But it always comes back to, this is what the argument you see. You see, well, the prices would have gone up anyway. So it's like, we know it's bad, but the prices would have still gone up anyway. First of all, if you're invested into this market, I don't want to hear you because obviously you're biased about it. You're not impartial. And that's why it's so important that video was made by Carl, first of all, because Carl isn't against sealed games. He's not against grading games. He just saw what he thought was improper, unethical behavior and called it out. It could have been for any other field. Obviously, it has to do with video games, but he called it out for what it was.
I do think prices would have gone up eventually, and I don't think these being expensive is the main problem. My main concern with this is that you create a market that looks alluring and you get people into it who don't know anything and they're at risk of losing lots of money.
Yes.
That's my concern. I don't really care how expensive these things get.
No, but the point is this. Do you get to this point in time if you do not have that $100,000 sale that made the rounds and had all the articles about it that Rich Lecce and Jim Halperin and the third individual invested in and then went on Pawn Stars to promote and had the guy grading it say, oh yeah, these games could be worth $1 million. Like right there from the bat, unethical behavior, we called it out. Do you have all this stuff happening if you do not get an article about some fucking dentist middle of nowhere starting an investment company in order to pump up the price of these? And that's not even, talked about in those articles as being strange or weird. Do you get to this point this quickly if that stuff does happen? Absolutely not. There's no way you get to this point in 2.5 years. You do not get to this point in time. I'll bet any amount of money on it wouldn't happen. You can't take a time machine, but you don't get here without these individuals propping it up. And that's the point. It's not like there weren't expensive video games before, but before they were based upon sort of a long tradition of what people were looking for, what was actually rare, what was coveted. Now there's no rules anymore. The rules are gone. The rules are gone, and now it's just what you think is going to be worth money. So yeah, it's a bad statement. I didn't expect anything less from there, because what else are you going to say? Well, I'm sleazy. What else are you going to say? What would you say, Ian, if you got caught? Well, I'm sleazy. You know,
I did an oops.
Oops, I made all this money, and I just made money as an investor, and the company was just sold. I made more money. Oops. I did insider trading. This foreign, like, oops. You know, it's disappointing, and this is the beginning of it, not the end. That's my belief when it comes to this. There's a lot of money involved. I will also say this: Collectors Universe, who did the purchase of WATA in July, will also purchase Golden Auctions in the same month. Golden Auctions right now is auctioning off 2 pristine Mario 64s. I don't know what they're at. I don't care. We'll probably talk about it in a couple weeks when they end. How do they feel right now with all this coming out? We never really talked about that. How do you think they feel after making that purchase of the company? Obviously, they believe in it, but did they know some of this activity was going on? Did they know that a co-founder was involved with this? Did they know that there's some stuff going on that seems shady, or did they not care? They just want to capitalize on it. That's what I would want to know. I'd love to be behind closed doors and at Collectors Universe to see like what their reaction was to that video and all this stuff coming out. I mean, they figured, no, we're just making money. We don't care.
I mean, honestly, I feel like that's probably it.
And we're just going to ride out any bad PR, you know, and that's it.
I think that's what will happen. I think that's their end goal.
And if there's a bubble that bursts, they still made their money either way, because again, they're double dipping. I don't know how this is allowed. How is this not monopolistic? How do you own both the grading company and the auction house that you put the games on from? How is that not like an antitrust thing? That's not for me to decide, though. That's not for me to decide. I mean, hell, they forced PayPal to separate from eBay. The government did.
Yeah.
Because they're like, this is weird. You are using PayPal as your main service to pay for the stuff people are buying on eBay. That doesn't seem right. So the government can step in when this stuff happens. They can. I'm not saying they will, but they have in the past. They've broken up big companies because it's weird. You can control markets in ways that shouldn't. It's not free market capitalism anymore. That's the whole point. You are controlling things and wedging them in certain directions you want. You're nudging things in directions. That's the whole point about when we talk about collusion, is that it's no longer a free market. This portion of the CU podcast is sponsored by Geology. Geology is a simple skincare routine formulated for daily use. It's for both individuals new to skincare and seasoned skincare experts. Geology is personalized for your skin and the benefits you want to see. Great for individuals with sensitive skin, acne, dark eye circles, or wrinkles.
You say, wow, this sounds great. How can I get in on that?
Yeah.
Take a 30-second diagnostic quiz, and they formulate a regimen that provides the benefits your skin needs the most. This can be anything from reducing dark and puffy eyes, fighting acne and keeping oily skin under control, or protecting your skin and reducing fine lines and wrinkles.
No one ever says, you know what, I need more fine lines and wrinkles on my skin.
No one ever says that. You start with a complete trial set. These products work best together, so you get all 4 basic products. You get an everyday face wash. You get a vital morning face cream.
Keep that protected throughout the day. Keep your face protected.
A repairing night cream and nourishing eye cream.
Which is my favorite for my dark eyes under my... These the raccoon eyes I got here.
The sleepies?
These little sleepy eyes.
These little sleepies? You can continue with 90-day supplies of the products you love the most. Subscribe and save, or go a la carte. You're in total control. I gotta say, it's really helped me control the oiliness of my skin, and I feel a little smoother and brighter.
I said Ian looked smoother skinned this morning.
Smoother and brighter.
Smoother and brighter.
Happy guy.
Geology has over 3,000 5-star customer reviews with an average customer rating of 4.7 out of 5. They've been recognized by Men's Health, Esquire, and Ask Men 2019 Grooming Awards. How do you get in on the action? Head to geology.com and take their free skincare quiz to save up to 40% off your 30-day trial, or just click the link below. That's geology.com, Geologie, to save 40% on your 30-day trial. Get going. Take care of your skin. Speaking of free market economies.
Speaking of collusion.
Retro gaming collusion. and market manipulation outside of the graded games, regular, good old, complete and box stuff in loose games.
Yeah, leaving graded games behind. Good old Pat trying to buy Kid Clown for the NES.
So there was a tweet put out, Ian, if you want to read it or talk about it.
By Matt Paprocki, a freelancer for WAPO, Variety, Rolling Stone, Forbes, Ars, GameSpot, Polygon, Playboy, etc., said that a friend got a dead serious message on eBay, and it went like this. Hi, I would like to take a moment to see if you would consider raising the price. Now, before you write me off, hear me out. You see, there are very few copies of this game in circulation, and we as owners of the game each individually hold a high percentage share of the market value, given that less than 5,000 copies of the game were actually released to the public. You could even make a comparison to OPEC. In this case, we have full control of the supply and demand of this game. Currently, your game is priced a bit lower than the next lowest price on the market for a CIB copy, which hovers around $270. I'm not requiring you to do anything, but I would like to highly encourage you to increase the price to at least $270. It is my belief that this is in the best interest of yourself as well as the few select owners of this title. If we can collaborate together, we can drive up the price to more reasonable value that is more representative of the title's rarity. I hope this message finds you well, and thank you for your time. In due time, we can achieve a profitable outcome. Sincerely,
Anonymous. And this got tons of retweets, 5,000 retweets, 20,000.
We were asked to look at it like 15 times, at least in my mentions.
So, some people say this is true. Some people are saying it's not true. It'd be a weird thing to just put out there and then get all this, I guess how many times could you do this and like cry wolf? I'm going to take this person at the face value. This is true. Or at least the sentiment is true.
Sure.
The point is this. We're asked to talk about, is something like this true or can it be? In my opinion, absolutely.
It can absolutely be true. To pull from a popular example that we've used before, that you have brought up before, that's in a different market, you simply look at what they did, what happened with Amazing Fantasy 15.
Or any of those comics at the time.
And graded comics, and how people bought them up and people own multiple copies to
pump up the value overall.
Protect the value overall. In video games, it's often been you've talked about people who bought multiple copies of stadium events.
Yes, that's one
as
of the reasons.
A way of protecting an investment. The more of them you have, the more you control them. You decide what price those get trickled out at, and you can inflate and control the value. We've even talked about it was years ago, but we had a listener who did an experiment basically doing that on their own with copies of Rampart for Game Boy. They bought every copy of Rampart they could find and managed to take a $7 game to a $25 game. And then they spent, and then I remember them, I think they even said in a follow-up, they even spent and the problem with this is it takes a long time for prices to drop. I don't think bubbles, especially something as popular as video games, they don't just burst overnight. It actually took him. He was having trouble getting that game back down lower. He was selling his copies for lower prices, but because there were so many examples of it going for an X number of price, people just kept putting them back up for that price.
Yeah, and here's the problem. Once you establish the base price, if I'm then on eBay, if I see a game for $4, I know it's worth $25, I might try and flip it. The figurative eye, it's like, so then you're in this feedback loop. If one slips through, that gets put back up, immediately. That's the whole thing about the buy it now. Once the buy it nows came into existence, video game collecting changed dramatically. And I know it's been a long time. It's been over 10 years since the buy it nows came into existence. Seems like it's been longer, but I
feel like it's been longer.
It was around the time I moved here.
Okay.
It was around that time. We can see when did buy it now start. Okay, when did buy it nows start on eBay? But the point is this: before it was entirely like free market forces, or more so, because you put up games for auction, people bid up what they thought they were worth. That's it. I think it's worth that. I'm going to buy it. It's a lot harder to do collusion either directly or indirectly without a set sales price. Because if there's like 30 copies coming up at the same time for auction of a game, and you all start at whatever, $2.99, 99 cents, those could end dramatically different places depending on who's bidding at the time,
right? What
their interest is at the time. That's a lot different than setting a base, almost retail price on something, because then at that point, you're forced into it, or else you got to wait. My story about, I'm going to get back to that thing about Nintendo, which I forgot about that. I'll tell a story first. that's one of the reasons why people turn against me on Nintendo Age. I said when one person was outed for buying several Stadium events, all within a short amount of time on the sneak, I said, this is bad.
Sneak.
Yeah, because like
because
sneak. Some people knew about it, and this is why Nintendo Age was fucking terrible. Because a lot of the mods were in on it with some of the sellers, and they were associations, so it was dirty. They weren't impartial mods on there. I pointed out like this is bad behavior. This should not be commended. They should be chastised or tossed off the site. And people came at me for that. They didn't
Spanked.
They didn't like me trying to be like a crusader when it came to that stuff, to try to stamp out that behavior. But when someone buys all the product within a short amount of time, this is what happens. They're going to overspend to do it, to make sure they get it. So, say for example, we'll go back to that. Say it's Adventures of Rad Gravity. Say it's a $5 game, or whatever it was.
I'm gonna say it's a dog shit game.
Yeah, I didn't give it a good review, or whoever rewrote it. The original review was shit in the book. I had it rewritten by a better author. Anyway, so what happens when I want to get all the game quickly, or a lot of them? I'm gonna overpay. I'm not gonna be patient. I'm gonna seek out and be like, yeah, I want this game, but I really want to keep it. Okay, I'll give you double the amount for it to make sure I get it, or 25% more. That increases the price. Privately,
and then you're holding on to it. So you have
Yes.
a record of sale at that price,
Yes.
and now you have multiple copies. If you have the money in your bank account to do this, this is a great way to both create the reason and give yourself the product.
and you give yourself, like you said, the track record. Here's
the
the
track-
receipts.
the reason. The reason. Yeah,
this
the
game
track
is not
record.
worth. Rad Gravity's not worth $5. It's worth $20 because look at these 5 sales. Yeah, you made all those sales, or you bought into it.
Yeah.
To do it. And going back to Nintendo Age, remember Hagani? That wasn't always a several $100 game. One summer, I think it was, I want to say it was 2012 or so, 11. I went on Nintendo Age and people were like, hey, did you know Hagani was an exclusive rental? And blah, blah, blah. And then that game, all of a sudden, people started to get it, started to go out and buy it, and you had people hoard that fucking game. That used to be a $100 game, $75 game. Hagani.
Yeah, I think that's a little different, though. I think an exclusive game that was previously unknown to be rare is definitely going to jump up in price once it's known to be rare. I think something like a Stadium Events is a better example. Everyone knew it was rare. That's purely just people buying and holding on to.
I get that, but like Hagani,
it would have eventually become someone would have figured that out.
Yeah, but I have games on my shelf that are just as hard to find as Hagani that are worth under $50 for the Super Nintendo. That's the point.
Sure.
They made it. They did it on purpose. And I bet you when that happened, and all those people were talking about it, that some had multiple copies. That's the whole point. They were preparing for it. There's always been Haganis available. That's the point, and multiple ones. Anyway, back to the point here. So you can do the collusion. You can work with others or not, or indirectly. I want to talk about Kid Clown. Kid Clown was one of the last 10, 15 licensed games I needed.
You know, I've never really played that game, and I really want
It's
to
fun.
now.
It's fun.
I didn't know it was a Crazy Castle game.
Oh, I didn't know. What are you talking about?
It's part of the Crazy Castle series.
I didn't know that. No.
I didn't know that either.
And there's a Super Nintendo one, and there's the NES one, and there's a Game Boy one, right? So Kid Clown was always on eBay between the 2 or 3 big sellers at the time. Lukey Games, DK Oldies. There was a third one. I think the third big, the big conglomerate retro game sellers that has bots that buys lots that we found out, or has, ins. What was the third one? I forget. The point is this. The 2 copies that were always on sale for Kid Clown at the time.
JJ Games, DK Oldies, yeah.
And Lukey Games. Those are 3 ones. There might have been a 4th one. The copies that I always saw for a year, because I'm crazy, and I didn't want to pay the buy it now, were always at like $80 for these Kid Clowns. And I'm like, no one wants Kid Clown except crazy people like me. No one wants them. So what did I do? I waited and I waited. Finally, open auction eBay. And I guess those bots didn't pick it up. Remember what I got that for? I told you. Got it for under $20. It was like 18, 19 bucks, maybe $20. That was an $80 buy now. I got it for 25% of the price because I didn't buy into it. But if I had, you'd have this record of, oh, Kid Clown's worth $80. You might have someone else go in and be like, well, I better bid it up to that amount, or I can sell it for. If I was a reseller and I got it for 20, what would I do? I put it back up, buy it now for 60,
right,
and sell it instantly. Because the last person would be like, wow, I lost it at 18. I better buy it for 60, or else I got to buy 80. So when you hear people, and I've had arguments with game collectors and game historians about this, that think the free market exists and that's it. Things are worth what people want to pay for it. They don't take into account collusion, psychology. There's something called like auction psychology, that people wanting to win something, willing to pay more for something. There's a lot of stuff that goes on with this. But this conversation is about market manipulation and collusion. Absolutely, there's been market manipulation going on. There absolutely has been for certain games. You can't do it console over console, but yes, you can pick certain games at one time to do it with. You absolutely can. And that doesn't even take into account the example you said. Did you bring up the Flintstones Dinosaur Peak?
No, I did not.
There was one guy who had over 24 of those. So going to Ian's point, that person will overspend to get them as many as he can. And
use the overspending as a reason for the price they are charging for it, even though it's the price they paid. And then,
but eventually, it's going to be worth more because I own the supply.
I own all of them.
And that's where it becomes an OPEC. OPEC is the conglomerate in the Middle East that all the different countries that produce the oil, they come together and they set the market price. That's what the OPEC reference was. If you don't know out there, that's what it is. They literally control the supply and set the price, which is weird, but it's an international thing that we have to deal with here. So that's what it comes down to here. Do you have any examples? You brought up before the podcast about Pokemon cards. Have you seen it with Pokemon cards, with like people trying to get all of one card or pump up one card?
No, I was thinking about. It's not really the same thing. I was just thinking about how Pokemon is blown up in price, and people do. So there's these things called elite trainer boxes. And the elite trainer boxes come out every time a new set of cards come out. And the elite trainer boxes have like 9 or 10 booster packs in them, some dice and markers, sleeves, and a nice box to put your cards in.
Sure.
And those things are supposed to be at like 44. I think they're supposed to retail for 40 or 45 bucks. But people started scalping their own goods. People would buy them, control the price of them, and then distributors. There were some scummy distributors out there that would actually sell them to stores because stores couldn't get them. They would basically raise the price so that over time, especially during the pandemic, the price of these elite trainer boxes went from the 40 they were supposed to be at retail to like $49.99 or $69.99 became the new accepted price.
They're choking the supply and selling it back at a higher price.
Right, exactly.
Because they can.
Yeah.
I do know that, I know this one person, there's others that will go out of the way to buy, I don't know, a pallet of a box of Pokemon cards or Magic, and they'll sit on them for years and years until the price goes up and then sell them. So imagine if enough people do that, and obviously it's happening now, you restrict the current supply. It's the same sort of thing. Restrict the current supply, everyone else is harmed for it, and then years later, the price is up. So it's like, it's not exactly the same thing, but you are restricting the supply short term for a long.
It's different, but
for a long term game.
Similar.
So yeah, no, this happens. There's it's not, if you just want to say it's baked into capitalism, sure, but it's just greed. That's what it comes down to. It's greed. Greed makes people do shitty things, and you have to have people that look out for bad behavior and try to stamp it out. And whether it's on a forum, whether it's people talking about it or pointing out, you just got to fight back against people that want to take advantage of others. That's the bottom line. The same thing with scalpers. You get people try to defend scalpers. I want to fucking knee them in the teeth. It's like, come on, man. You either like people, people or you don't like people. You want people to be happier or not overall. Either side with people that try to take advantage of other people, or you do the right thing and call out bad behavior. That's it. And that's why I wasn't outcast, but that's why people went after me on Nintendo Age, because I tried to call out bad behavior within that community, and they didn't like that.
Sure.
So it is what it is. Ian, we got a Patreon.
Patreon.com/CU podcast. Full video podcast. I do a monthly hangout. I'm probably doing that one this week. We do writings. I put one up recently. You do a writing,
but we're going to start doing a monthly exclusive podcast just for the Patreon. Whoa, we're going to talk about whatever we want, not just video games, whatever we want.
Nope, that's how we've found it works best with Extra Napkins. It's just, Extra Napkins is just talk about whatever. People who are buying a bonus podcast just want to hear us riff and shoot the shit, so that's what we'll do.
They're not buying you, they're supporting.
They're purchasing.
That's a beauty of it.
And then we do poll topics.
All right, in second place, this is a split here. 46%, will computer games ever be as collectible as console games? God, I hope so. I have a lot of rare games. And then first place, summertime-related video game memories, 54%.
Summertime. So, yeah, I do have some summer memories of games. And now that I'm remembering them, I'm getting deja vu. Like, maybe we talked about this
we
before?
did this topic before.
Okay.
We do this topic. We missed our eight-year anniversary, which happened, what was that, like a few weeks ago? 5 weeks ago? I don't know.
5s and 0s, Pat.
5s and 0s, okay.
Sonic Adventure on the Dreamcast is a very clear summer memory for me. I was going into my senior year of high school, and I was very excited about the Dreamcast. I had pre-ordered one, was ready to buy it, and Hollywood Video did a special you can rent a Dreamcast promotion like a month or 2 months before the damn thing came out to test it out. Sega wanted to get it in people's hands. So I went and did it. And the rental was relatively reasonable. It was like, I think it was like $30 to rent the system, or $20 to rent like the system and
for a weekend?
For a weekend, and it came with
games?
Sonic Adventure. Came with Sonic Adventure 1 and no VMU, no way of saving the game.
Better pause it and turn the TV off.
They definitely, though, did charge a refundable $300 deposit if you
kept it
or broke it. So I rented it and I played Sonic Adventure that entire weekend, and it's like I said, it's just a very clear summer memory to me because it was in the summer. I remember being very nice out, and instead of being outside, I was just kind of holed in, playing this game all weekend with my friends. And we just kept passing the controller back and forth to do levels with the different characters, and we got like most of the way through the game the first day, and then just turned the TV off, and then the next morning woke up and went right back to it. So that's a big one.
More than 3 hours in a weekend? Oh no. Ian.
Oh no. Another one that reminds me of summer was, and I've told this story before too, but it was sitting down and beating Rampage.
On the
NES.
God, that sounds horrible.
With my friend. It was awful.
Shit.
It was not a nice day outside. And we
not a nice day inside.
No, and we were hanging out, and well, I mean, I bring up the nice day outside because in the summer, if it was not nice out, there is no way my parents would have let us sit around in front of the fucking TV.
Get out there, play some street hockey, street tennis. Get out there.
3.5 fucking hours it takes to beat that game all the way
that's
through.
Two players.
That's 2 players.
Imagine one player.
3.5 hours, and every time I'm like, no, that seems crazy. I look at like a long play or something, and no, it's long. The game is just
insane. Even for an NES game, that's
long.
insane.
Yeah. 3.5 hours it took to sit down and beat that game all the way through. And what a waste of a rainy day it was. We could have been playing anything, but it was one of those things where like
you have to do it.
You get far enough in.
It's like bubble.
And it's sunk cost fallacy. I'm like, I've already spent 2 hours on this. I'm just going to play for the next hour. I'm going to beat it. I have to beat it.
It's like watching the director's cut of Justice League. Zack Snyder's Justice League. I'm already an hour and a half in. I got to see how this fucking thing ends.
So those are like the two big memories I have.
Yeah.
One good, one not great at all.
Wow. Nothing general? Like a general summer memory of like playing games or
no, I mean,
training with your friends or going over to your Kevin's house and playing them?
I mean, yeah, we always play. We would play them over at Kevin's house. It's not really much of a story, but I remember like the first time I ever played Contra was in the summer.
Okay.
Contra reminds me of the summer. I don't know when I don't know when it was released, et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, I definitely remember playing a lot of games in the summer. We would go inside when it rained. We would get a couple hours in at night when it was starting to get dark. But in terms of specific games, those are the two that pop up.
Okay. I can go on forever about Jersey Shore memories because that's
sure.
I mean, it's hard to do that. I always take for granted Ian probably didn't go to the Jersey Shore.
No, not at all.
I mean, I feel bad now. I want to take you. I'll play Frog. I'll pretend you're my pretend you're my adopted kid. We'll play Frog Bog. We'll spin the gambling wheels that are somehow legal.
Gambling wheels.
They still are to this day. They're still there. You're 5 years old. You can put up your dollar and spin the wheel. It's gambling. Sorry, God. I'll talk more about Jersey Shore stuff in conjunction with one game, Street Fighter 2. Street Fighter 2 came out that summer. What was that? July of like '92 for the Super Nintendo, something like that. That's when it came out. I believe it was that. I go to the mall. I went to Capcom World, whatever the hell it was called. Paid $80 for that game out of Pat's allowance. $80.
Which one?
Street Fighter 2.
Yeah,
the original. It was overpriced. But
yep. No, I remember it was very expensive. That's actually something I always bring up.
It was probably a bigger ROM board, which makes sense. And plus, it's Street Fighter 2. You're going to pay for it. But that's probably why I went there. So I brought that game down the shore. to play. I brought my Super Nintendo down the shore that summer.
How long would you stay at the shore?
Oh, you'd usually go either. It was divided up. No, at this point, my grandma was my grandma alive or gone? Grandmother died, I think, the year before. So it was my grandma's house. There was 5 kids, the 5 daughters and sons of my grandma would share it that summer. You get like a week and a half each, basically. You get like a full week. Then they do. They say, my mom will go to her sister. You stay in this weekend. We're gonna go for a weekend. So either 3 days or a full week. This was a full week. Well, my sister's friend Stephanie. They were in high school at the time. Obviously, they were like 15. They were like 16 years old, and me. I played Street Fighter 2 on the little CRT in the house that was up in the little. You go to the Jersey Shore seaside. All the houses have the front door, and then they have the little. God, what is it called? Not a vestibule. The little patio area with the screen door. It's enclosed, but it's like almost like it's added on.
Sure.
It's like the stuff where you take off all like your fucking your flip flops and sandals. You don't want to get in the house.
Yeah.
It's like it's 6 feet wide and the length of the house. It's like small. You know what I mean? So there was like 2 chairs set up there, a little probably 15-inch color CRT that was from like the 80s. And we played Street Fighter 2 that whole week, which is weird because you can play it 4 blocks away in the Jersey Shore. You can play
You play the accurate version.
You can play. It was champion out by summer '92, probably was.
But this didn't cost you your quarters.
No, this cost me $70, $80 with tax. So I did that. So Street Fighter 2 is always that big summer memory. But now I'm going to get into more specific games that debuted or you saw that summer on the Jersey Shore. Stuff like, the first time you go up to Casino Pier, and you see fucking 8-player Daytona.
Ooh, yeah. That's always cool.
Or even the 4-player, but I think they had an 8-player one. And you're just like, what the hell is this?
Daytona.
Or, I guess a year or two before that, seeing 4-player Cruise. They definitely had 4-player Cruising USA there. And seeing that for the first time, whenever that was, 96, and you're like, wow, this is like a really cool racing game that's cartoony and it's fun. And it's 4 players, and it's accessible, more accessible than Daytona was. And those are things that hit you. Like, what are the first games I'm going to see on the boardwalk this year? Like the first time, Time Travel by Sega. The first time you saw that thing, that summer.
Time Traveler?
Traveler, yeah.
Or Holocene was the other one.
Which I never saw ever in the arcade, but I did. I'm trying to think they ever refashion one. But anyway, Time Traveler, the big white thing that Sega put out with the hologram where you're a cowboy and you're traveling through time. First time seeing that, you're like, wow, this is new game tech. And that's the thing about the arcades and how that's one thing I do miss, which is
seeing like all the new technology. Yeah.
It was right in front of your face. Yep. That's how you discovered it. That's how you discovered new games. Well, what is this? It's a new game. Like, yeah. That's the glory of arcades. Going back to the early 80s, it's like, what's here this week? Oh, okay. What's Miss Pac-Man? How would you know that's coming out? What are you getting the trades mailed to you? Going to the arcade show in Chicago, whatever. They're like, well, how would you know that's coming out unless you're an arcade operator? You wouldn't know. That's being worked on. And so those are the big ones. Games like Cruising USA, Time Traveler, and like Killer Instinct. Even the new like Tekken, you would see that summer.
Yeah.
Like when Tekken 2 came out, that was a big deal. I remember for whatever reason. The first Tekken, I don't remember seeing that much, but Tekken 2, for some reason, that was a game. I was like, wow, I love Tekken, and seeing that in the arcades that summer.
It was a graphical step up from Virtua Fighter and the original Tekken. The original Tekken and the original Virtua Fighter. I mean, if you go back and you look at
it's a little rougher the first one.
They're rough.
But no one talks about the first Tekken. People like Tekken 2 is fucking great, and yeah, Tekken 2
and Tekken 3 really took off. But like, I think Virtua Fighter is talked about because it was the first, and I think. After that, it's like, we'll talk about these again when they start looking good. Yeah,
I see what you're saying. But yeah, those are the games to me that stand out for gaming memories. I don't have like the Kevin stories for this summer. My neighbor Billy, one, that got me into all different types of music.
My neighbor Billy.
That had the Genesis. So, you go over there, you play Altered Beast. I'm sure I played that. What was that late summer that came out? I played that. He got Genesis right away. In '89, he got that pretty lickety split. He got that. He got everything. Splitty. So we had that. So I never really played NES with him that much. We played Genesis. So I guess you can say like Altered Beast, probably Moonwalker. He probably got that pretty much straight away. It's technically probably September. It's still summer. I want to splice hairs. So those are memories. I always think he got Moonwalker right away. He had Altered Beast, and I think he had Tommy Lasorda baseball. Those are like the 3 I think he had right away. I believe. I don't think he had Pat Riley basketball. I think he had Tommy Lasorda. Because that would have been the baseball game, right? That would have been the first big
Tommy
baseball game.
Lasorda, yes.
Yeah, that would have been the first big baseball game. So those are my summertime memories there. And yeah, of course, I played my own Nintendo games before I'd go outside. I probably burned my eyeballs trying to beat Rygar. One of those summers, probably summer '88. I probably tried to do that and probably failed miserably, or '89. But yeah, I do miss the arcades.
I do too.
For new games, it's almost like it's not just nostalgia. There's an experience that happened that was different. I guess that's nostalgia in a way, but it's the whole experience is gone. That's the whole thing. That experience is absolutely wiped out.
Sure.
Seeing Simpsons Arcade for the first time at Barnacle Bills, I will never forget that. I mean, never forget that. I don't know how I didn't think of that. Seeing that, walking into the mini golf was near the street. You walk into there's the ice cream place next to it. You walk into the building and seeing it was like World Heroes there, and then 9 feet away in the middle of they want to display it was Simpsons Arcade. And that was like, imagine seeing that when you were a kid.
I remember the first time seeing the Turtles arcade game.
Same sort of feeling. But I remember that for arcade in particular, it was seeing that in the summer was Simpsons. And that was like, this is impossible. This is the cartoon. I'm playing the cartoon. I mean,
right.
It's fantastic. This portion of the CU podcast is brought to you by Sheath Underwear. The best underwear you're ever going to have, guys. It's boxers that are designed to keep your balls off your legs. It's as simple as that. Sheath has 3 individual compartments to keep everything down there separate and cool and comfortable. Your twigs aren't going to be running up against those berries anymore. Not with Sheath Underwear.
Traditional boxer briefs are barbaric. It's like they were invented during the Neanderthal era.
Yeah.
Sheath has a modern ergonomic design intended to prevent skin-on-skin contact for long durations, which can build up heat and sweat. Sheath prevents all that. It's the holy grail of underwear. I gotta tell you, you're gonna chafe and readjust less
sweatiness.
Everything is kept in a separate compartment.
It's a spandex thing going on here. It's a nice fabric blend. It's cool to the touch. Has some absorption here. It keeps it all regulated down there. Get yourself some Sheath underwear by going to sheathunderwear.com/CU podcast to save 20% off your order today. That's Sheath Underwear, SHEATH underwear.com/CU podcast. Make sure to use that promo code CU podcast at checkout, or just click the link below if you're on YouTube. That's sheathunderwear.com/CU podcast for 20% off. Do yourself and your balls a favor. Grab yourself some Sheath underwear. Well, Ian, we got voicemails, don't we?
We do, and you're going to have to tell people how to get to them.
You go to anchor.fm/CU podcast, and you can leave us voice messages. You can even try your Don West impression. Here's the first one. You said you knew who that was. You actually know who that was? Do I know who that person is?
I think you've had interactions with them. Yeah.
Okay, now I feel bad.
They laughed it off.
This is Tim from Minnesota, and I'm just wondering what you guys most miss about retro gaming before all the hype. For me, it was going on the hunt and actually finding games for cheap. I remember turning away Turtles in Time on the SNES more than a few times because I had 3 copies.
It's common.
You just don't see games in the wild anymore anywhere, and it kind of sucks. Just looking for your feedback. Love the show, guys. Thanks.
Honestly, for me, and I don't think it's necessarily it's not a bad thing that more people are into it now. But I think the thing that I missed the most was, I don't want to say feeling like an exclusive club, because that's not it. It was the excitement when you found someone else to talk about this shit with.
Sure.
There was a large period of time where it was very uncool to be into that sort of thing. And I don't miss that, but it's hard to explain. There was a sensation where you found, like, I used to get made fun of for, like, multiple times. I remember going to the mall and flipping through, like, the NES games, and someone would be like, "Oh, why are you looking at that shit? Oh, that's old shit."
It wasn't for video games; it's for old games.
Right.
Yeah, you're a weirdo looking at old games.
Right. So, I miss that feeling of, like, holy shit, other people out there exist. Obviously, the payoff is that I don't have to worry about it anymore. No one thinks it's fucking weird or anything like that. But I missed that weird, like, oasis in the middle of a desert feeling that you would get when you found someone else who was also into it. And, of course,
this could be a larger topic, too. We can.
That's about it for me.
Yeah.
Hey, Pat and Ian, this is Mark. Doing my commute right now, listening to the podcast. I just left you guys a message a couple of days ago asking to be the resident board game snob of the podcast. And what do I hear listening to an episode today? I hear Pat saying board games are $20.
Okay, I got some pushback on this.
Yeah, you really did, bud.
I'm not talking about the gourmet Kickstarter board games. I'm talking about the stuff that they, like, Amico's like, oh, we're going to replace board games. You can buy a pack of Uno cards for $6. A Game of Life is under $20. Battleship is $15.
Yes, but that's
that's
not
games.
really what people play anymore.
Don't care. That's what traditionally what board games were and are. That's what millions of people played. Millions of people aren't playing your $300 fucking goblins.
No, but they are now. That's the thing. Board games.
No, those are smaller run games. That's why they cost so much money. Milton Bradley's not putting out that stuff.
All right.
That's my point. You're going to jump on me because you think, here's the point. Families not buying.
You were wrong, Pat.
Families aren't buying $300 board games to play with Timmy and
No, but they're
Johnny.
buying plenty of $50 to $75 board games.
Plenty? All right, then. Okay, Mr. Moneybags in Buffalo.
Times change.
All right, we had the.
Pat, I'm talking about modern days. That's the problem. You're thinking about the old days.
You think parents can afford to buy 4 or 5 board games a year? It costs $75.
I'm saying
for kids.
I'm saying things like Ticket to Ride are very popular, and yes, people are buying stuff like Ticket to Ride and Catan and Carcassonne, and they're buying the expansions.
But those aren't kids playing that; those are adults playing that.
Okay.
I'm talking about kids.
All right, you can just continue to say things.
Amico. The whole point is the Amico was geared towards kids and old folks. The board games geared towards kids and old folks are Game of Life, Monopoly, the classics.
All right,
Connect 4.
Right.
Dizzy Dinosaur. They still make Dizzy Dinosaur? Is that a $150 game now? Right, next.
Hi, Pat. Hi, Ian. It's
Hi.
Paul from Detroit. I was just wondering what you would pick for a new name for the Washington football team. How about the 10-yard fighters? Or perhaps the play-action footballers? Just wondering what you think.
They did announce that they're finally going to... It's been like 2 years already. Think of a name. Next year, they're going to finally... I think after this season, next season, they're going to have a name. For them.
People will hate me for saying this, but I actually kind of just like Washington football team.
They had a short list, and actually, yeah, there was Washington Red Wolves. That's a cool name.
Oh,
that was
cool.
one that people were like, yeah, that's a fucking cool name, and Wolves aren't used enough for.
Yeah, that's a neat name.
You got Timberwolves, and that's it. So yeah, that was one that stood out. That I'll be shocked if that doesn't win. But the owner is a weirdo to begin with, so who knows? But Washington Red Wolves. I used to love the colors. I had a in my room hanging up. I used to go for Washington all the time when I was a kid. I just loved the colors. Which is weird that I didn't like the Giants.
Hi, Pat and Ian. This is David. I was just kind of wondering, do you guys have any specific, reactions to seeing video game references in media, like movies or TV? Like, do you pick it apart? Do you make fun of it in your head or something? Or do you just not care?
I always say the turning point for retro games being acceptable was there was 2 moments in time. Or they happened at the same time. This was about 6 years ago.
Only 6 years ago?
I'm talking mainstream.
Okay.
That's even before Pixels came out. There was 2 commercials. McDonald's had a commercial with Bowser giving a present to Mario. It was a little thing. It was like a calligraphy sort of thing with like Rosie. Remember that? And then there was a Trix commercial where they're playing Nintendo, and there were adults playing Nintendo. Like, oh, remember playing Mario? And I'm like, that's the first time I ever saw something like that happen, where it was a retro gaming stuff into mainstream, products. That was the first time ever. That was like 2015 or 16. That was right before the NES Classic and things like that. That to me was the big turning point where I'm like, okay, if people are in a boardroom spending millions of dollars to market these products, they know that people are liking this to market, if that makes sense. Sure. And that's when, people were starting to have kids. People grew up with Mario were starting to have kids, 5-10 years ago. So
the question is, did you pick apart appearances? Not when did you see appearances?
Well, I wrote down reactions to video games and reference movies. No, I never picked them apart. My favorite movie, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, I never picked it apart. I thought it's cute when it happened. I didn't see it. I was like, oh, this is cute. It's acceptable now, I guess. You're capitalizing on it. I don't know.
The one thing that I always remembered was that early on, before it became a more popular hobby, you always saw people playing video games in movies and commercials, and it looked nothing like a person playing video games or movies. The controller was always some fucking orb with 3 misplaced buttons on it.
Well, they were still using a joystick for some reason.
Just pounding on it, and nothing ever looked like it was actually video games. And I think now that video games have become more mainstream, and the people who played them growing up are now in marketing positions.
Yes.
You now have more accurate representations of video game playing in commercials and in media.
We got CEOs of companies now that grew up with the NES.
Right.
So like it's acceptable. And that's what we said. Like now, video games it's not an oppressed group being a gamer. It's we're okay. We made it through. All right, next one here.
Hey, Pat and Ian. This is Josh from Green Bay. Love the podcast, and I'm also a big fan of extra napkins. So I thought I would combine a question for both the podcasts.
It's not allowed.
But mainly for Pat and Ian.
Okay.
What kind of food in video games do you think is like your favorite? Like something in a game that looks like really delicious.
Ian
Like,
had
you
his
know,
answer.
like I mean, like anime always makes food look good. So, and I saw a person do like a video on like trying to cook all the stuff in like Zelda Breath of the Wild.
Well, you answered this question. We did this like 2 years ago.
I mean, I don't know if what my answer would have been then, but games where food looks good, Final Fantasy 15. Anyone who's played it can tell you the amount of time and effort they put into creating the food that you can cook at a campfire is absolutely insane, and I would eat so much of it.
That's not what you answered a couple of years ago. Did you answer Bubble Bobble a couple of years ago?
I think that was a different question.
It wasn't. That was like power ups, and I said
Yes.
food.
Yes.
What was your answer? You had a different question, a different answer. I thought to that.
We change as we evolve.
Okay, what's next here?
Hey, Pat and Ian. Austin Ostergaard from Lincoln, Nebraska. Longtime caller, first-time listener. My question is for Ian. I'm wondering, when you smoke, what do you smoke? Do you smoke like tree, or do you smoke dabs? Do you prefer carts? And a follow-up question is, what do you prefer to smoke out of? Bong, rig, pipe? Thanks for the podcast, guys. Keep it up.
I prefer blunts and joints, but I often smoke a bowl out of convenience. I prefer actual flower to cartridges or dabs. Dabs, frankly, I'm too fucking old. 38 years old. I don't need that kind of a high. And then cartridges, I use them for convenience, like a vape pen, but I feel like the high is different. I prefer it if I'm just taking the stuff and putting it in a thing and smoking it.
Hey, Pat and Ian. This is Charlie from Arizona. I had a question about the cost of living in San Diego. I currently make about $15 an hour, and I want to know if that's about enough that a person would need to relocate to the area. If not, what would you say is a more reasonable wage for a person to live on their own in San Diego? Also, what would you say are the better neighborhoods and the neighborhoods you'd like to avoid when living in San Diego?
Well, I'm not going to go to that area because I don't know the areas that are really bad in San Diego. But so $31,000, $15 an hour, that's not enough to live in San Diego. Maybe if you have like 3 roommates, you won't be saving any money though. You have to make double that. I'd say you have to be making $60,000 a year to be on your own, to live decently and save a little bit of money in San Diego. Something like that.
I don't make that. But also it's Vonnie and I. 15 is too low. If 15 is all you've got, absolutely not. Like 15 an hour, you can't do it. It's just not.
31,000 a year is not enough.
You will go insane. One missed check will fuck you up at that level.
Yeah,
of money.
you could live, but you won't be saving any money, and your life will suck.
And like I said, if you know, heaven forbid, something happens, you're out of here. I think if you are resourceful and you have a roommate or two, you could probably do it at closer to 20 to 22 an hour. But yeah, you're definitely at living on your own out here with no roommates, no significant other.
If you had roommates, you can do it.
No significant other, you'd probably need 25 to 30 at least.
Yeah, like double.
Yeah.
So 30,000 if you have roommates or help, 60 by yourself. That's I was making a little over 60 when I moved here, but prices were cheaper then, and my condo. was
prices
cheaper.
have been
So
crazy.
I bought my condo after the crash, so that's the only reason I could afford it.
Right.
So, yeah. But I wasn't saving a huge amount of money when I moved here. Spending all on those video games. All right, we'll do a few more.
Hey, Pat and Ian, this is Dave from Edinburgh, Scotland.
Hey.
Long-time listener, first-time voicemailer. I've just finished my first coffee table book. It's about side-scrolling beat-em-ups,
Oh,
and I was just curious to find out what your favorite side-scrolling beat-em-ups were. Like Streets of Rage 2, Final Fight, that kind of thing. So yeah, what are your favorites and why? Thanks, and keep up the good work.
Well, I know what Ian's favorite game of all time is. But...
I mean, my favorite side-scrolling beat-em-ups right now are Streets of Rage 4 and Final Fight 1. Final Fight 1 because it, for an early entry, not first, but for an early entry into the genre, it nails everything just about right. The feel, the levels, the length, the enemies, the variety, character balance. The story is serviceable but fun enough. I like how
Streets of Fire.
Yeah, it's a great game. And Streets of Rage 4, I just think is kind of the pinnacle of everything that's happened with beat 'em ups to this point. It's fantastic. I played it for another hour and 20 minutes last night. I don't get sick of it, especially the DLC.
Final Fight had something that was important that when Capcom got bigger. Not their mid 80s, even later 80s stuff, which Final Fight was later, but we'll say 90s. The polish of those games, once I got to the 90s, Capcom polish really started to shine.
Well, that was like 89, right?
Yeah, that's what I said.
Okay.
So once you get to like Final Fight and Street Fighter 2, that's miles ahead of like Trojan and Street Fighter 1. It's like almost like 2 generations ahead in like only a few years.
I mean, it sounds silly to say, but those were the AAA games of the time.
But like, Capcom arcade games, there wasn't one that didn't at least look and play well once you get to like the 90s for the arcade games. They're all
I'd say they all look fabulous, sure.
Yeah, so that's the thing about Final Fight. Obviously, I love Double Dragon. Ian doesn't agree.
Ooh, no.
Love Double Dragon because it's such an important game for the genre. And it's fun. I think it's fun. And I grew up playing it. Ian, remember, Ian's a youngster compared to me. He's a whippersnapper, so he might not have played it in the arcade.
I'm a year younger than you.
He didn't have.
Oh, no, I'm two.
He didn't have a Boatcraft amusement park to go play it in Route 22, Scotch Plains, New Jersey. He didn't have that, which now is like fucking condos because everything's gonna be fucking condos. Too many people. But he didn't have that, so I grew up playing that. And then Simpsons, Ninja Turtles, fantastic. All the Konami ones were great.
I was gonna say those are Konami.
Sega Spider-Man that I introduced Ian to, so I was shocked he never played that. Like all those I love. They all had such a unique feel to them that were different. At least in my estimation. Even the Konami ones felt different. Like Simpsons felt different than Ninja Turtles in a lot of aspects. That's what it was a golden age of beat 'em ups, like that early 90s.
Yeah, when I say those are my favorites, I don't mean they're the only ones I like. I love tons of beat 'em ups, but I think Final Fight was very important and just very pretty. And then, like I said, it's hard for me not to say Streets of Rage 4.
Hell, give me fucking Captain Commando. I'll play it right now.
Captain Commando's fun.
Give me Punisher, which you never really saw that much. Punisher was great. Like all of them were so good. There's not a lot of clunkers that you remember. They were all just like, these were Alien versus Predator. Like fantastic. Like,
awesome game.
Yeah, can go on forever. We'll do a couple more here.
Hey, Pat. Hey, Ian. This is Josh from Decatur. Why doesn't Nintendo release just a no-frills Switch, and kind of like the Lite, but focus on a premium D-pad, premium buttons, maybe have a regular one and an extra premium edition for a couple $100? It's just no frills, just good controls. You can put the card in it and play it. Why don't they do it? Nintendo, I even got the name for you. It's a switcheroo. Peace.
Okay.